Welcome to the Expert Network Team Podcast.
Hey, welcome to your Expert Team Podcast. Jeff Cromendike coming to you here from One Digital, and we are sitting in the home office of A&I Financial. I have got two of the key players here at A&I Financial sitting next to me. Carl Frank, thanks for joining us today.
So good to see you, my friend. Good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's good to be here. And we also have Nate tuning in here from the Western Slope with Good Speed in Merrill. Nate, welcome, brother. You're looking good.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And then without further ado, we have Chad here joining us as well, one of the principal owners of A&I Financial. And I would just say, you know, as great as these two guys are, I just want to throw a plug in for Stacy, putting up with you two guys. But, you know, I think for those of us who have sat in the podcast studio here for a long time, since COVID, 5 years ago, you know, having Carl kind of talk all the time, Nate, I thought we've got Chad in the studio. Let's like get the truth from Chad. And so this podcast is going to be titled Chad GPT. And
anything you want to know about anything.
Yes, exactly. And many of our listeners here obviously are clients of Chad, and so I think it's just only appropriate that we hear from Chad today. So everything is, nothing's off the. Okay, yeah. you got. Okay, go ahead. Put it on the tee, Nate.
I'll take all the softballs I can get, Nate.
You know, with something Carl likes to point out, Jeff, we all have known each other for almost, 12, 13 years now since we, Jeff, you might have known Carl even longer than that.
Yeah, probably. Good
friend.
Well, we go back to 3 to 5 Club, right?
Yeah. Way back.
I didn't know you met at 3 to 5.
That's how we met.
Funny. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Chad, I've known you being part of A&I, similar to, I have a equity partner at my firm, Nick Rudden, who started as an intern, worked his way up as an associate, is now an equity partner.
How about that?
And it's always a good thing that we can show people that someone wants to stick around long enough and work with us long enough to attain that level of ownership and involvement with the firm. Tell us your kind of story as to why you decided to stick with A&I and become a partner and kind of play the long game with A&I.
And you can tell us an embarrassing story about Nick too, if you want. Oh, I'm supposed to be quiet.
You're not supposed to even be talking right now.
Speaking of Nick, I don't know if you know this or not, Nate, but Nick was the shortstop on my 10-year-old Little League team. So him and I go back even longer than the three of you. So it's nice to see him seeing a lot of success over there at your firm.
Yep.
But when it comes to my experience here at A&I, I started my career, day one out of college, very green, naive as to what I was getting into. And I went to work for the big banks. And I realized really quickly that I was in love with the industry and not in love with working for a bank. And so I went and interviewed with my father's financial advisor, and I walked out of that meeting with a new job. And I worked for a very large insurance carrier in downtown Denver for about 7 years, built up a nice practice there, and again kind of had an epiphany moment that I felt that was a world that was very transactional, and taking a round peg and jammed it down a square hole no matter what. And I don't think that's the way you should be giving people financial advice. And so I ended up meeting Carl through a relationship with the Financial Planning Association. And again, Carl, I think you and I met for about an hour and a half sitting in the office and walked out of there, and I was a new hire. So we knew right away that there was a lot of synergy and just kind of the way that you believe people should be treated. In our business, I think even when it comes to money management, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's nobody out there with all the solutions. There's many different approaches that I think can be successful. I think what differentiates firms is the way that they care about their clients and the scope of services that they provide. And being an independent family-owned firm here, without any bias to recommend one thing over another, to me was a game changer. And so I've always appreciated small business. I came from a family where I watched my folks really come from nothing to be very successful and comfortable and set off on their own retirement journey. And I am a believer that you should be compensated for the hard work you put in. And this is definitely a place that does that. And so I went in and tried to bust my you-know-what for a couple years and kind of prove I could keep up with the rest of them. And Carl and Stacy approached me and gave me the offer to become a partner at the firm. And, we had grown from what was already a successful business to really where we sit today, which is multiples bigger in size, from assets to employees to the amount of clients that we work with. And it's been so exciting to see the company kind of get to this point, because there's a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into that. But it's been a great landing spot for me. I think that the best asset our firm has is really the brain trust that our advisory team brings to the table. We've got 10 financial advisors, and I think I'm 21 years into the business and might be the low man on the totem pole when it comes to experience. And so it's just a massive amount of experience and expertise that our advisors bring, and they're willing to share that. And that's not something that you get everywhere. I think a lot of businesses, advisors are working in kind of a siloed model. And here, we're all, rowing together. And I think that that's powerful. I think our clients, appreciate that and have kind of fallen in love with our vision. And we're just here to help people make smart decisions. And I don't know if I'll ever get tired of doing this, but at some point I'll have to start collecting those bigger Social Security checks, Nate.
Yeah,
That's a
great.
throwback for those of you who haven't listened to the net podcast preceding this.
Yes, exactly.
Chad is the in-house Social Security expert, and we just recently interviewed him on that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'd like to kind of just tuck in right behind that question. That was a softball. Way to go, Nate. Get us started here.
That's not usual for Nate.
No, I know. It's usually
a demographic, political history,
something
What's
over
the
our
meaning of
heads.
life?
Yeah,
and a little bit
exactly.
of string theory.
Yeah. But for those of us clients, I'll just speak from the client-facing perspective. I think everything you said, Chad, is super, super true. But for those of us who walk through the doors of A&I Financial, maybe once a year, maybe once a quarter, I've got the privilege of coming, here a couple times a month and just visiting great friends and people and doing these podcasts. But there's something else here that I think is maybe the reason why the firm has grown in financial advisor numbers, but also your support team and so on and so forth. Tell us a little bit about the culture here and what you like the most about it, and what you guys are doing to attract really young, great talent. Because when you walk in, I mean, that's what we see. And I know you're kind of in charge of that group. Carl's also, doing a lot of training, and you guys have your own training, program. But tell us a little bit about the culture and why it is that you're attracting young talent, which I don't think is easy.
It's not easy at all, and it's something that we struggled to find some footing there until we really realized that I think this new generation, what moves the needle from them is very different than what we've seen for folks that we interview that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I really think it's important that they feel their work is making a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the salary and the benefit package and the opportunity to move up the ladder. They want to know that they're moving the needle for these families. And I think that the way we're able to kind of play personal CFO for our clients and not just play stockbroker, and help them with all these different aspects of their lives. That's an exciting thing for a young individual to discover. When you're getting started in the financial world, usually you're getting stuck in a call center, answering the phones, doing a lot of repetitive service work. And here we're believers in having them, dive in head first in the deep end, starting day one. And we kind of set up, almost a mentorship program. And Carl, I'll pat you on the back. He's really steered that for our young folks, understanding kind of what they're looking to do career-wise and how can we train them up to give them the best chance to be able to achieve that. And one thing that I think has been very powerful, we have now broken up into smaller groups where we might have somebody on the management team, somebody on our advisory team, and somebody on our operational staff. And we meet every week and we talk about our goals. And a lot of times they have nothing to do with work. It might be something they want to do, get in better health, being able to buy their first house, maybe looking to have kids, and being able to have experienced voices giving direct advice to a young individual who's trying to make it in this business. I don't think they're getting that anywhere else.
That's great. Awesome. I'll throw this out to both of you guys. What would you say are, you have core values, right? But what would you say are, those core values, but also just some of the attributes of the culture? And when we talk about culture, we don't just talk about internal, but also what the clients are experiencing. What would you say are just a couple of those that you can throw out for us today?
This is great. I really appreciate you guys asking all these questions. Chad, thanks so much. This is completely unscripted and surprising. And I thank you for the authenticity. I appreciate your kind words. One of the things that I'm really proud of is our professionalism. Everybody here is a professional, regardless of your role in the firm, and they all make an impact on the client. Everybody here is client facing in a manner or whatnot that might not see somewhere else. And that's a big part of it. So the three things that we're focused on this year are being accurate, being prompt, but also being heartfelt, right? So we might not know the answer. Our new people, our young people might not know yet the answer, but that's how they'll remember it. So we get back to our clients right away. They will, and then they'll be accurate when they do get back. And then they'll deliver it with heart, because these are stressful times. They're also changing times, and they're also our clients are usually in a period of life when their lives are changing. And so we want to be respectful of all that and be accurate, right, and prompt. Yeah. Awesome. So that's one of the things I'm focused on for our goals this year. And I think we're delivering on it. I'm hearing word through the grapevine. It's working. Yeah.
Would you add anything to that, Chad?
Sure. I think that ultimately what I've learned in my career up to this point is that ultimately, when you're dealing with somebody's life savings, this is their livelihood of not just a couple, but generations that come after them. It's meaningful work, and ultimately they're hiring us because they trust us, right? That is what we're selling. We're selling trust. We're selling honesty, and being honest, whether it's a client that has a question and we say, you know what, I don't have the answer today, but I'm going to get it for you, and getting it back quick, that's going to build more trust than anything else. You don't have to know everything about everything right off the bat. And so I think we're very honest with each other here. I think as a small business owner, the conversations you have are intimate ones. We know a lot about each other, and we're spending a lot of hours together, and it's a whole family that we're creating here. It's my work family. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't love the people I'm working with. And we're really picky about who we bring on board. And if it's not the right fit, we're going to move on from that. And so we've really found a lot of traction with the group, and I couldn't be more excited to have some young blood, filling up the space these days. And that's important, not just for our day-to-day operations, but for our clients to see that there's a succession plan here. We have folks in place, so eventually when Carl and Stacy sail off into the sunset and I follow them shortly after, we've got the next generation dialed in, ready to go, to be able to continue this on, because it doesn't end when my work career ends. I want this to be a lasting legacy that keeps going long after I'm gone.
That's awesome. Well, I'll just say, I say this all the time, but, for those of us that get to experience that, like a lot of times companies will say that they're about something, or they value something, or they see themselves in this way. I can just tell you that from a client perspective, it's experienced. So you guys are, you're walking the talk, as they say. And for any of our listeners that maybe just do Zoom calls with these guys to do your annual reviews or quarterly reviews, I just encourage you to try to come into the office, meet some of the people. I would, anyone from like Gay, who meets you at the front desk, all the way to all the way throughout the office, has just been it's just a great experience. So I just want to plug that. But anyway.
See the fishies. So I can end with a harder question.
Oh yeah, see the fishes. Yeah. Okay, a heart question? Do you have a heart,
question.
Nate? Oh, a hard.
No, not heart.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't know if it's a hard question as much as it takes a little more thought, because but you've already kind of mentioned or discussed trends related to the future workforce, but what do you see the future of the industry in terms of how it's changed over your professional career? But what do you see happening on the horizon, or what do you foresee happening? You projected some things forward with kind of Social Security, so I'm curious your perspective on perhaps markets and how we plan, what we plan for, that sort of stuff. Now that families are getting smaller, even a lot more childless families being part of your planning mix, I would imagine. Like, how do you see the landscape and the products and industry changing going forward?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on that, Nate. I think that there's a few trends that are hard to ignore. One, I think fee suppression has already started to occur in our business. We've started to see investment companies lowering the fee drag on their investments as a reaction to what the public is saying we want. I don't see that trend changing anytime soon. I think that the risk of not having a financial guide is going to only increase moving forward, because 40 years ago, when you retired from Ford and you had your big fat pension and a Social Security check coming in, there wasn't a whole lot of risk to screwing up your stock portfolio. And now with Social Security, staring some insolvency issues right in the face, pensions becoming a thing of the past, investors are going to become more and more dependent on the own decisions that they made for the decades leading up into retirement. So I think that the impact we will have on our clients' lives is going to become drastically greater, not the other way around. I do think that whether it's the idea of robo-advisors or folks that want to do it yourself, and that is a very real trend in our business, but it has one huge shortfall in that the biggest differentiator between the level of wealth you're going to be able to achieve, Nate, versus the folks living across the street from you has nothing to do with who is the better stock picker, okay, or who paid lower fees. It's who avoided the big mistake and got out of their own way, who avoided the emotional decision like a lot of folks are feeling right now, whether it's the current administration or it's the uncertainty they feel at work or it's issues they're having with their family, all of these reasons that are causing them pain and suffering today. Those are only going to become a bigger and bigger part of what they're having to deal with. And I think that having a professional in place that understands, listen, the investment consulting piece is a very important cog in the wheel. Okay. But it's the impact or the decisions you're going to have to make on a lot of these other areas, whether it's being more efficient with your tax planning, protecting your wealth through, legal services like Nate provides through the insurance world, being able to make sure you're taking care of some of these major risks that can really throw your life, make you do a 180 there. That's what really allows people to rest their head down on their pillow at night and sleep easy. I think we can't control the market as much as we want. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow in the market, no matter how smart they sound when you listen to them talk. And they're all guessing at the end of the day. The key is having good behavior, being able to save and live frugally and prudently, and not make decisions that are going to be hurting your future self down the road. And so that's what I see, Nate. I really do. I think that how we invest our dollars may change, but I think the need for having a financial plan is going to become it's going to be the only thing that matters at the end of the day. Because if I'm 65 years old and I'm, might have accumulated a couple $1 million of wealth in my stock portfolio, and now I've got to figure out a way to maintain this lifestyle for the rest of my life, and I don't have Social Security to rely on, and I don't have a pension coming in to live off of, those decisions are a big deal, and they shouldn't be underestimated. And I think that's why we'll be in business forever.
Well said. Good. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna leave it with one last question for you. And I think Nate and I are, we haven't really had a conversation about this, but I can read Nate's mind and what he's thinking. And we're thinking about maybe just having you be our host on the Expert Team podcast. I'll have a conversation with Carl later about that, but would you be up for that?
I'm in.
Excellent.
Yeah. As long as the salary looks good,
it pays really well. Let me tell you, really well. Fantastic. Well, hey, thank you guys. Nate, we always try to give you the last word. Any other thoughts here on Chad?
No, last word would be, it's always great to see organizations that are looking at generational succession. And I know, Chad, you're part of that for A&I, and you'll be part of that by passing that on as well. So kudos to Carl and Stacy for looking ahead and making sure that their clients are covered and taken care of.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well done.
This was really a great podcast. I really enjoyed it. I think I'll resign. It's all yours, Chad.
Hey, I appreciate you guys letting me on today. It was fun.
Awesome.
Right,
well,
great.
very good. Thank you guys. And thanks for listening and tuning in to the Expert Network Pod, and make it a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and the information we shared.
We hope you enjoy the information contained in today's podcast and find it useful.
We hope you will join us again next time as we explore new areas of interest to our listeners or current issues we believe are important to discuss.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you are notified when future episodes are released, and also share it with a friend that you think would benefit.
If you'd like to meet with a member of the Expert Network team or have a request for a special topic you'd like to have us discuss on the podcast, submit those requests to info@expertnetworkteam.com. That's info@expertnetworkteam.com.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. We want to remind you that listening to this podcast does not establish a client-professional relationship with any of the professional firms represented, including guests, nor does it constitute legal, investment, accounting, or other advice of a fiduciary nature. The views expressed are those of the professionals only.
Investment advisor services may be provided through A&I Wealth Management. Securities may be provided through Genios Wealth Management.